And in staying with energy matters, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget speech brought with it some big announcements relating to ESKOM and the country's energy crisis, with a key focus on tax incentives for solar and government taking on some of ESKOM's debt. What positive impact will this really have? Newzroom Afrika's Andersen has a look.
After a week of non-stop Stage 6, the desperation for solutions to boost South Africa's electricity grid is growing. And on Wednesday, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana unveiled a series of measures to help give the national grid and ESKOM a critically needed lift. With ESKOM's debt standing at a whopping 423 billion rand, Godongwana announced that the government would take over 254 billion rand of that amount, giving ESKOM massive debt relief. There's also a key focus to encourage businesses and households to buy and install solar energy. With a big tax reduction on the cost for businesses, households who go for solar panels can get up to 15,000 rand back in a tax rebate. Energy expert Chris Yelland has long called for ESKOM and the government to offer massive incentives for a public solar rollout. He says while the already strong incentives for businesses have been made even better, incentives for households do not go far enough.
That, I think, has made the business incentives even stronger. They were good, and now they're even stronger. But when it comes to individuals, I'm very disappointed. I think they are weak, they are unambitious, and they will not have the desired impact. So, first of all, the incentives are capped to a maximum of 15,000 rand. Second of all, it's only for 1 year. And thirdly, it only applies to the solar PV panels themselves, not to the batteries or the inverters. And in fact, it only applies to 25% of the PV panels.
Yellen believes that as a result, the plan will not have the impact it could have had and will not make a significant difference in reducing load shedding. But what about the argument that the tax incentives for solar panels do not take into account the vast majority of South Africa due to the sheer expense of buying such a setup? Reacting to the budget announcement, EFF leader Julius Malema was not impressed with the solar installation plans.
There is no clear strategy on how they are going to finance the electricity crisis that we are confronted with. The people that they are speaking about that will get tax incentives if they were to install solar panels, it's an elite approach, because majority of our people do not fall into the tax bracket, because the incentive comes in a form of tax relief.
It's also important to remember that the debt relief handed to ESKOM in the budget speech will come over 3 years and comes with strict requirements.
They've said that this money has to be used for repayment of capital and interest on ESKOM's debt. It cannot be used by ESKOM for new generation capacity. And it must be used, in the transmission and distribution networks, to enable further investment.
Yellen believes this move signals that ESKOM is looking to fully turn its focus to primarily being a transmission and distribution business, and leave the job of generating the power to other providers. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Andersen in Johannesburg.